Hello, hello. Yeah, it is. All right. So that's beyond. That's good to go. Here's this.
If you want to say a comment about how insanely good-looking I am, I'm not going to hold it
Okay.
against you.
Fair enough.
Just
Fair
as
enough.
FYI.
If you want to come to the middle, a little bit closer, you don't have to stay on the top. Fill in the middle section, that would be well, or if you can see on the sides or whatnot, go by the red dot. Also, if you have your Chromebooks, if you didn't check that out, you should have got an email. There is a survey that you need to fill out at the end of the presentation, just giving a little bit of insight of how you liked it. Put your name, and it also counts for attendance purposes. So if you don't fill that out, you'll be marked unexcused. So for those that are watching us online, you should have got a, if you're here, you want to get excused for a second hour, you're going to have to watch the presentation and fill that survey out in the end.
Believes in making. He challenges people to dig deep and help improve effectiveness, performance, and cultivate a stronger sense of passion. Paul is known to many organizations in 100 countries. Paul serves as the president of the Star Group, a trusted leader in the insurance field, and is one of the largest family-owned independent insurance agencies in Wisconsin. He's also the chairman of the 2019 American Heart Association Milwaukee Heart Walk. Lastly, Paul is the founder of the C-Suite for Christ, a group of business executives who share stories of how including Christ in their daily lives has positively affected their work environment. Paul and his wife Tanya reside in Colgate with their 3 children, Kennedy, Hudson, and Reagan. The Neubergers belong to Grace Lutheran Church in Menominee Falls, where they enjoy the welcoming nature of the congregation and the family-like atmosphere. Paul serves on the Grace Lutheran Church Endowment Committee, working to secure the financial future of the institution through donations and estate gifts. In his spare time, Paul loves spending quality time with his family, immersing himself in politics, reading biographies, and watching movies. Wisco family, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Paul Neuberger.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, gang. Okay, I know we can do better than that. I'm going to try this one more time. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Good morning, gang. Good morning. All right, it's a blessing and an honor to be here. As was noted in the reading of my biography, one of my happy places is public speaking. I've been very blessed and fortunate to travel the world, talking to a variety of organizations on a variety of topics, everything from sales training to cold calling to instantaneous differentiation to how to run a successful meeting to leadership to entrepreneurship, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But you know what my favorite thing to talk about is? Christ. Because everything revolves around Christ. Amen? Because Christ is our firm foundation. Amen? Because without Christ, we're nothing. Amen? All right, so we're going to talk about a number of things, not only centered around our faith, but also centered on a word, and this is one of the most important words in the English language: integrity. Say it with me: integrity. I want us to think about this word. I want us to understand this word. I want us to obsess about this word, and I want us really to have a good understanding of what this word is and how this not only transforms our individual life, but transforms the lives of others. So this is today's presentation: integrity, your passport to personal and professional success, the importance of and secrets to living a life of immense integrity in an effort to be a life for others. So I'm very excited to have this conversation. So you learned a little bit about me a minute ago. I'm going to keep this relatively brief. But for me, I get asked this a lot. You're going to see this in the next slide. I am what people call busy, just like a lot of you. I got a ton of stuff going on. And people say, Paul, what drives you? Paul, what motivates you? Are you nuts doing all this stuff with 3 small kids and everything else? The list goes on and on. Well, when I get out of bed, let me ask you this question. You don't have to answer it. This is what we call a rhetorical question. What do you get out of bed for? What motivates you? What inspires you? Are you getting out of bed just to go through the motions? Are you getting out of bed because you have to get out of bed? Or are you getting out of bed for a higher purpose, a bigger calling, a more robust region, or a more robust reason? I mean, what do you get out of bed for? The reason that I get out of bed every day is because I aspire to make the impossible possible. Because it's only impossible until someone does it for the first time. And as it says in the good book, with God, all things are. I love taking things that humans think can't be done. I love doing things that individuals say, that's too hard, that's too challenging. If it ain't hard, I don't want a part of it. I don't get out of bed for the easy. I don't get out of bed for the things that everybody can do. I don't want to walk down the trodden path that just about everybody has walked down. I want to do the difficult. And one of the things that is extremely difficult to do, I'm not going to lie about it, but one of the things that's extremely difficult to do is to be a man or woman of immense integrity in a world like we live in today. But nothing is more important, nothing is more vital, and nothing is more transformative, not only to your life, but to the lives of others. So that's why I want to have this conversation with you here today. So what is Paul up to these days? I think the better question is, what is Paul not up to these days? Because there's not a whole lot on that list for sure. But this just gives you a high-level overview of some of the stuff that I'm involved in. I own 4 companies. Let's go through the list. The first logo, Young Guns, kind of like a TED Talk, a more in-your-face TED Talk for entrepreneurs, where we bring some of the most talented individuals all around the globe and show other people how to be an innovative disruptor. The Cold Call Coach. For the last 7 years, I've made a living showing salespeople how to master the phone and sell a lot accordingly. PMN, those are my initials. That's my International Public Speaking Organization. Star Group, I don't own that organization, but I serve as their president. And then C-Suite for Christ, an international organization where we bring Christian business executives together to pray for each other, encourage each other, and witness to each other. So needless to say, lots on the plate. Just under 50 employees total with respect to all these organizations. So the question becomes, how do you do it all? How are you able to manage all of this? How are you able to succeed with all of this stuff on your plate? Well, one is time management. Being able to know you only have 24 hours in a day. You've only got 7 days in a week. That's the great equalizer. How are you spending your time? Delegation. There's only a handful of things that I do all day, every day. Otherwise, I delegate it to other people to help me carry the load. Rallying people behind my ideas. I tend to be a rather effective communicator, and I'm good at inspiring others to follow suit and join a common cause. But the thing that I really want to talk about today, now I am so far from perfect, it's not even funny. I am the most room in this, or the most imperfect person in this entire room, and I haven't even met you. I don't have all the answers. This is just me doing my best and sharing some thoughts with you. But one of the things that I can tell you is I have made it my life's goal, my life's mission to be a man of immense integrity. And it's amazing what that does for you, for your quality of life personally, when you build a life on integrity. It's also amazing what it does for you professionally, the heights you can achieve, the businesses you can create, honestly, the money you can make if you build your professional career on integrity. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. So to get us going, I have a story here. One of the secrets to sales success. You're going to see some of my sales presentations weaved into this, because I wish when I was your age, I wish when I was in high school, I had a crash course on sales. Now you could say, well, I don't want to be a sales professional, I want to be a doctor. Awesome. I don't want to be a sales professional, I want to be a lawyer. Awesome. Whatever you want to do. But guess what? Life is sales. If you're not selling a product, you're selling an idea. If you're not selling an idea, you're selling yourself. Heck, even if you go to your spouse and say, I want Salisbury steak for dinner, and your spouse is saying, no, it's meatloaf, I'm trying to sell you on why I want Salisbury steak. So one of the things you're going to get is a decent amount of sales training weaved into this. So to get us going here, one of the things I want to do to set the tone is I just want to tell you a little bit of a story. Selling is about telling stories. Convincing people is about telling stories. Life is just one big story, and the more you can tell stories, the more you can weave stories in to your presentations and narrative, the better it's going to be. This story is going to set the tone for what I want to discuss with respect to integrity. Listen to the details of this story. There was once an emperor from China who had no children and needed to choose a successor. Thousands of children from across the kingdom came to the palace and were surprised when the emperor exclaimed that he was going to choose one of them. He gave them all a seed. They were to go home to their villages, plant the seed in a pot, and tend it for an entire year. When they returned in a year, the emperor would judge their efforts and choose his successor. There was a boy named Ling who received his seed and returned to his village. His mother helped him to choose a pot and put some soil into it. Ling watered his pot every day. Once a week, the children of the village would get together to compare their plants. After a few weeks, there were signs of life in all but Ling's pot. The weeks passed, and Ling continued to water his pot every single day. After a few months, the pots really started to come to life. Some had trees starting to grow, some had flowers, and some had leafy shrubs. Poor old Ling still had nothing growing in his pot, leading the other children to make fun of him. Ling continued to water his pot every single day. A year passed, and it was time to return to the palace to show what had grown and decide on the new heir. Ling was anxious as his pot still showed no signs of life. What if they punish me? They won't know that I've watered it every day. They'll think that I'm lazy. His mother looked him in the eye and explained that whatever the consequences were, he had to return and show the emperor his barren pot. Ling and the other children entered the palace gates. By now, some of the plants were looking magnificent, and the children were wondering which one the emperor would choose. Ling was embarrassed as other children looked at his lifeless pot and scoffed. The emperor came out and started to make his way through the crowd, looking at the many impressive trees, shrubs, and flowers that were on display. The boys all puffed out their chests and tried to look as regal as possible, hoping that they would be chosen as the heir to the empire. Then the emperor came to Ling. He looked at the pot, then he looked at Ling. "What happened here?" he asked. "I watered the pot every day, but nothing ever grew," Ling muttered nervously. Then he grumbled something to himself and moved on. After a few hours, the emperor finally finished his assessment. He stood in front of the children and congratulated them on their efforts. Clearly, some of you desperately want to be emperor and would do anything to make that happen. But there is one boy that I would like to point out, as he has come to me with nothing. Ling, come here, please. Oh, no, thought Ling. He slowly sauntered to the front of the group, holding his barren pot. The emperor held up the pot for all to see, and the other children laughed. Then the emperor continued, "A year ago, I gave you all a seed. I told you to go away, plant the seed, and return with your plant. The seeds that I gave you, all were boiled until they were no longer viable and wouldn't grow. But I see before me thousands of plants and only one barren pot. Integrity and courage are more important values for leadership than proud displays. So Ling here will be my heir." Integrity, courage, more important than proud displays. If only this life valued a story like this, and I think this is a good precursor for what I want to start walking you through. So when we start talking about being a man or woman of integrity, first, to understand integrity, we know it has a positive connotation. We know it has a good meaning. We know it's a good thing. But what specifically do we mean when we say integrity? Well, the definition of integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral righteousness. Some of the words that should leap out at you: honest, moral, principles, righteousness. These are words I want to dive into a little bit more as we go through the rest of this presentation. So why is integrity so important today? Sounds good, but why is it important? Yeah, that might be nice, but why should I obsess about being a man or woman of integrity? Why is this such a good thing? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, just look at the state of our world today. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not an optimistic guy by nature. I am. I'm not saying that I don't believe in human goodness or human decency. I do. But it just takes a few minutes to see the state that our world is in. We've got people that'll do anything to get ahead. We've got people that will lie, cheat, steal, deceive, just to achieve what this world defines as success. Just think about some of these scandals that you read about, be it in politics, be it in Hollywood, be it in business, be it in any industry. You've got racial tensions that are at a heightened alert. You've got a divisiveness in this country. You can't even share your political beliefs on social media without being attacked instantly. How do we get to this point? This world right now is craving for a light in the darkness. This world right now has lost its way. Many of us as Christians have a hard time even articulating that we're Christian without being attacked. This is backwards. And if we're just going to sit back and say, I hope somebody does something about this, we're going to be waiting for a while. We need to be the change we desire to see in the world. It starts with us right now, today. The ripple effect, if you're familiar with what I mean by ripple effect, basically you pick up a little pebble, you throw it into a pond, it makes a little splash, but then you have those ripples that cascade after that. Nothing can produce a ripple effect like being a person of integrity. People see what you do and they emulate that. People benefit from what you do and they emulate that. Whether you know this or not, there are so many people right now that look up to you, that admire you. You, to the world, might be one person, but to one person, you're the world. And if they see you acting and behaving and conducting yourself in a way of integrity, doing what's right, doing what's moral, doing what's righteous, doing it because it's the right thing to do, that impacts more lives than you can possibly imagine. You influence 5 people. Those 5 people influence 55 people. Those 55 people, pretty soon we're overwhelming the world. And this world needs to be overwhelmed in that fashion based on what's going on. We're losing this battle. Again, I'm not up here to be Mr. Pessimist. I'm not up here to say it's without hope. There is a lot of hope. You all give me hope. You all make me optimistic. But if we don't stand up, if we don't make our voices heard, if we don't be counted, if we don't go forward and live our life the way that we should, we're going to lose generations, we're going to lose people, because the other forces are loud. The forces of political correctness are loud. The forces of shaming us are loud. The forces of separation of church and state. Yeah, if you want to believe in God, that's fine. Do that at home. Don't bring that to school. Here you can. What a blessing that is. Don't bring that to the workplace. Don't bring that into the community. The other forces are speaking up. We need to speak up based on our morals and our principles. Everything is at stake here. I don't want you to leave here going, oh, that Neuberger guy, yeah, he gave a pretty good talk. What's for lunch today? Just know, every day is a battle. Every day is a battle between good and evil. And if we're not moving forward, if we're not touching lives, if we're not making the world a better place, if we're not standing on our firm foundation of morals and principles, we're regressing as opposed to progressing. And I've got 3 small kids. What kind of a world are we going to leave for my kids, for your future children? There's a lot at stake here. But let's put all that grandiose language aside. Let's just be selfish for a reason. Again, I'm only 38 years old, but I've witnessed enough success in my life to say, you know what your ticket is to being a success professionally? Some of the most successful people I've ever met, they're not the smartest people in the world, although you should try to get good grades. They're not the most talented people in the room, although you should use your God-given talents as well as you possibly can. They are men and women of immense integrity. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. What are you standing on? What are your principles? What are your beliefs? And are you keeping those in a bushel basket so nobody can see? Or are you acting as a light in the darkness? One of my favorite questions is this. If you were accused of being a Christian and somebody took you to a court of law, would there be enough evidence to convict you? And if the answer is, I don't know, Maybe we can change that. If the answer is no, then maybe we can change that. And our ability to stand on our moral principles at a time when the world needs it is vitally important. We talk about morals. What does that mean? What do we mean by morals? So a moral person is concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness and badness of human character. So not only do you know the difference between good and bad, you are concerned about the difference between good and bad, right and wrong. So let's do a little bit of a dive into morals here. So the first question is, well, who determines the actions that you take? Good news, bad news? You do. Nobody else can do it for you. You've got influences in your life, sure. You've got role models in your life, sure. You got people that you can go to for advice, sure. But you're the one that does the action. You're the one that does the deed, or you're the one that sits by and watches other things happen. It's a blessing because you're in control. But it's a curse because you're in control. And sometimes we have to learn the hard way. I'm not saying being perfect. A moral person is never perfect. There's only been one perfect person that ever lived, and that person is not in this room, I can assure you that. But that's okay. Some of the greatest lessons you learn are from failures. Failure is acceptable. Failure is permissible. In fact, I would say failure should be encouraged. Because if you live a life where you're too afraid to try, if you live a life where you're too afraid to go outside of your comfort zone, that's not a kind of life I want to live. So you determine your path. Where do your morals come from? Now, based on where we are here at Wisconsin Lutheran High School and based on our common Christian belief, our morals don't come from anything of this world. That's not the firm foundation we stand on. Our morals come from God. Our morals come from our Christian faith. Our morals come from the good book that we should be spending time in on an ongoing, regular basis. This forms our decision-making. This forms our thought process, and this is what we need to evaluate ourselves on as to whether or not we're being a person who's living a life of integrity. Who are we accountable to? Again, everything up here I'm saying sounds like it's easier said than done. I totally get that. Believe me, this is hard. Here's me being vulnerable for a minute. You ready? I graduated college in 2005. From 2004 to approximately 2013, I suffered with debilitating anxiety. I was on 2 different types of anxiety medications. Sometimes I'd go 3 months without sleeping. I was popping pills for insomnia as well. When you're anxious, and I'm sure a lot of us have dealt with that from time to time, it's hard not to. When you're anxious, when you're nervous, when you're constantly feeling like you're being judged, you're not living up to expectations, when you're not sleeping, your mind goes into very scary places, and I had suicidal thoughts for a while. One of the things that started to pull me out, and if you've ever dealt with anxiety or depression, you know that's a constant battle. You can always backslide. But one of the things that pulled me out was I made a very conscious decision, and I want you to think about this too. At the end of the day, who are you accountable to? And I made the conscious decision that I'm accountable to my God, to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ above all else. Yes, you have to respect authority, no doubt. Yes, you have to respect your parents, no doubt. Yes, you have to respect your teachers and your coaches and the adults in your life. It's in the Bible. You need to respect authority. God places authority figures in our life. But more than anything else, you're accountable to your God. And if any decision arises, any situation arises where you have to choose between compromising your morals, compromising your faith, and compromising your God, you never compromise your faith. And once you know where you're accountable to, once you know what you're accountable for, life just becomes a little bit easier. Because now you're not trying to please people on social media. Now you're not trying to please your friends. Now you're not, ultimately, I'm accountable to my parents. Sure, all of that plays a role, but you are ultimately accountable to your Heavenly Father. That's where our morals come from. So who's impacted by your decisions? And I would say in some way, shape, or form, everybody. Everybody. The people in your sphere, the people in your family, the people in your class, the people in your community. Not only are they impacted by the decisions you make and the decisions you don't make, they are watching you very closely. You influence them based on your decisions. You influence them based on the actions that you take. So again, I say all of this to say, this is not just an isolated thing. I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to try. Good, all you can do is try. But just know that this is so much bigger than any single one of us. Now, this isn't easy. This is not easy. This is going to be one of the hardest things to do because every day there's a battle going on between the things of this world and the things of heaven. Every day there's a battle. I tell you this to steel you for this battle. I tell you this to prepare you for this battle. And again, I've been in rooms with 3,000 executives, millionaires, people that run big companies, and I talk just the same way to them as I'm talking to you. When you wake up in the morning, you got to do one thing that has two words. You ready? Armor up. Could you imagine going into battle back in the olden days, back like the Emperor's story? Could you imagine going to battle? You've got one army over here, there's an army over here. They've got their swords, they've got their shields, they've got their horses, they've got their clubs. We show up in our jams and a rubber chicken. Who's going to win that battle? It ain't us. I'll tell you that. If you show up to run your day and you haven't armored up, this world is going to eat you alive. What do I mean by armor up? Read the Bible. What do I mean by armor up? Say a prayer. Eat a nutritious breakfast. Write, read, exercise. Do something that gets you in the right headspace, because if you show up for life and you are in the wrong headspace, you're in the wrong heart space, you're not in tune with your Heavenly Father and your teachings, this world is going to be exceedingly difficult. There's this battle that rages. It's a daily fight. Here's one of the things that I want you to know, again, because if you know what you're dealing with, if you have the proper perspective, life becomes a lot more manageable. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. Remember that. What this world values contradicts with what we value. What this world defines as success contradicts what we define as success. What this world defines as love contradicts what we define as love. So because of these different values, because of these conflicting forces, because of this constant bombardment, you're not skinny enough, you're not muscular enough, you're not making enough money, you're not popular enough. You don't have enough friends. Look at on Facebook. Everybody's having fun but you. What's wrong with you? This world will chew you up and spit you out and leave you for dead. Some of us feel that way some days. I know I do. So we need to evaluate things not based on this world, but of our heavenly world. Whose approval are you seeking? Are you living your day trying to trying to get approval from somebody? If so, who? If you're living trying to seek your parents' approval, you will always be disappointed. If you're living life trying to get approval from people on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, look at all those likes I got, yeah, I'm great, you will always be disappointed. Your coaches, your teachers, your family, important people all, important institutions all. But if you live your life trying to seek their approval, you will always be disappointed, because this world will always disappoint us to some degree. But if we live our life on our morals, on our principles, and just trying to seek God's approval, Jesus' approval, Christ's approval, now life becomes a bit more manageable. That importance of perspective readjustment is going to make life more doable. I want to be successful. The Bible's definition of success is totally different than life's definition of success. The life's definition of love is totally different than the Bible's definition of love. If we're going to be men and women of integrity, we first need to know which morals do we stand on. What lessons do we stand on? The lessons of this life or the lessons of our faith? And I would tell you, just like was already said earlier this morning, you are going to face these challenges, but you're going to have ways out of these challenges if you stand on your faith. John 15:19. The reason I put Bible verses in here is, yes, I'm an international keynote speaker. Yes, I love to talk. But rather than putting your faith in the human word, I'm a nobody. Don't put your faith in me. So rather than putting your faith in the human word, let's put our faith in the holy word. What does John 15:19 say? If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. This is why the world hates you. It's never going to be easy for a Christian in this world, because this world persecuted Christ. This world hated Christ. And because we're not of this world will persecute us, because we stand for something, because we stand on integrity, because we stand on our morals, and what we stand for is in direct opposite of what this world values. Therefore, there will always be tension. But no, the Bible says that already. The Bible anticipates that already. And with Christ, with God, all things are possible, and we can withstand these challenges. Again, it's not going to be easy. You are going to face challenges and temptations every single day of your life. You don't have to be perfect. You will fall once in a while. You will fail once in a while. You will give in to a temptation once in a while. You will not rise to a particular challenge once in a while. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. As long as you know these challenges and temptations are coming, as long as you know you can learn from them and make it less likely that you backslide moving forward, you will be moving down the right path. That's what a man or a woman of integrity does. There's going to be challenges and temptations with school and academics, cheating on a test, cheating on a paper, having somebody else do your homework, sports and athletic competitions, PEDs, they're everywhere. Everybody's just trying to get that competitive advantage. Business and money. When you guys get to the professional world, you will see, holy smokes, lots of temptation to improve your business, to make a little bit more money. They're everywhere. Career advancement. If I undercut this person, if I talk badly about this person. Relationships with your family, relationships with your significant other. Information. How do I acquire information? What do I do? Insider trading, whatever the case may be. There are going to be challenges and temptations every day of your life designed to knock you off the path, designed to break you down, designed to bust you up. But as long as you have your head in the right space, as long as you know whose you are, as long as you know what you stand on, you are going to be well equipped to handle these challenges. And I got some advice for you. I want you to focus on three things. Obsessively focus on feet, eyes, and being. Feet, eyes, and being. And if you focus on your feet, eyes, and being, you will be able to withstand just about every challenge that comes your way. What do I mean? Focus on feet, just like your feet move you. Your feet are your foundation. Your feet are your bedrock. Without my feet, it's going to be nearly impossible to stand. Everything up is predicated on the foundation of my feet. Focus on your feet. Stay anchored to endure the storm. Just think about, you have a boat. Your boat's out on the lake, whatever, 50 feet from shore, whatever else. The storms start coming in. The winds start blowing. The rain starts coming. The thunder, the lightning, everything else. What's going to happen to that boat if that boat's not anchored? Hey, where'd my boat go? It's in the middle of the ocean somewhere now. If you're not anchored in something, you will drift. If you are not anchored in something, you will be pushed everywhere the wind blows. Make sure that you're anchored. Anchored in your faith, anchored in your Christ, anchored in your morals. Stay firm to support the structure. Your foundation needs to be firm. It needs to be built on something that's able to withstand the storms of life. Stay connected to survive this life. Just like your feet are connected to your body and they're connected to the substance on which you're standing, you too need to be connected. You too need to be connected to the ultimate life source. And again, there's 2 Bible verses that talk about this. Not the human word, the holy word. Let's start with the first one, Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27. This is a popular one. Some of you might already have it memorized. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rains fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house and it fell, and great was the fall of it. The house is your life. What foundation is your life built upon? If you're built on your faith, your morals, your principles, your God, you've built your life on the rock, and it's going to withstand anything life throws your way. But if your life is not built on something, if it's not built on your faith, if it's not built on principles, if it's not built on morals, you are going to be like the man who built his life on sand. And the first sign of adversity, the first sign of challenge, the first struggle in your life, you are likely to fail. Don't let that happen. Make sure you're built on the rock. We talked about staying connected, John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from God, you can do nothing. You cut that vine off the tree, you throw it in your yard, within a couple of days, that vine is dried up and dead. If you pull yourself out of your power source, if you pull yourself out of your faith, you will not survive in this world for the reasons that I already said. Make sure you're connected to your power source. When these temptations arise, when these decisions arise, when these opportunities arise, make sure you're on that firm foundation. Make sure you're connected to your power source. Make sure you're standing on your morals and principles. That will ensure you're living a life of immense integrity. Focus on your eyes. What do we mean by eyes? Eyes, that's what we see. That's what we're able to get right in front of us. First thing is, a light shines brightest in the dark. A lot of people will say, man, you know, you're living your life in the daytime, you're living your life in the darkness, living your light in the day, things are going well. No problems, no worries, no concerns. It's kind of like, an example of this would be when I tuck my kids in at night. During the day, they've got 2 night lights that are constantly plugged in. When they're plugged in, they give off light. Well, when the room is well lit, it doesn't look like those night lights are lit, because it's all one big well-lit room. But what happens when I turn the lights off in the middle of the night? The light shines brightly. Sometimes we don't know God is with us when times are good, because times are just going fine. We're not thinking about it. But sometimes it takes the darkness for us to realize His light shines brightly. So when you face those temptations, look for the light. Know that it's going to be shining brightly in those challenging times. Seek it out and follow it. That will make sure that we stay on the path of integrity. That will make sure that we adhere to our morals during challenging times. Here's my question for you. Where are your eyes right now? You can't control what's going on around you, but you can control where you affix your eyes. Are your eyes on the storm? He broke up with me. I'm dealing with this. Life sucks for this. Nothing's going according to path. This person's bothering me. If you're focused on the storm, all you're doing is talking about why things are bad in your life. My challenge for you is, rather than staring at the storm, stare at the cross. And this reminds me of one of my favorite lyrics from a Christian song. It's from a song called Just Be Held by Casting Crowns. The lyrics go like this: if your eyes are on the storm, you'll wonder if I love you still. But if your eyes are on the cross, you'll know that I always have and I always will. Keep your eyes affixed on the cross. Keep your eyes affixed on the Lord. That's who we're accountable for. That's our firm foundation. That's where our morals come from, and that's going to help us weather the storm. Proverbs chapter 4, verses 25 through 27. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or left. Keep your foot from evil. You choose your path. You choose what you're staring at. You choose where your gaze is. Not going to be easy. It's easy to get swept up in the storm. But rather than focusing on the storm and getting lost in the things of this world, thereby sacrificing your integrity, keep your eyes firmly fixed above. Last one. Focus on your being. My question for you is, how do you determine your identity? What normally happens is, the way it's done in large part today is this: your standing determines your identity. For 2 weeks, I'm getting good grades. For 2 weeks, I'm doing well in sports. For 2 weeks, I'm the popular kid in school. My standing is up, therefore my identity is up. But for the next 4 weeks, I get bad grades. For the next 4 weeks, I struggle in sports. For the next 4 weeks, my friends are ignoring me. My standing is low, my identity is low. 2 weeks up, 4 weeks down. 3 weeks up, 1 week down. 2 weeks up, 5. Who wants to live a roller coaster like that? That's why people get depressed. That's why people get anxious. That's why, regrettably, you have people that have suicidal thoughts. This is the way it should be moving forward. Your identity should determine your standing. Know who you are. But I would say, more importantly, know whose you are. And if your identity is high, your standing is high. If your standing is low, your identity will remain high, because your identity never changes. John chapter 1, verse 12. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. I don't know what's going on in your head today. I don't know what's going on in your life today. But I know everybody in this room is dealing with an insecurity, dealing with a challenge, dealing with a struggle. We're all carrying a cross, and for some of us, that cross is extremely heavy. For some of us, it takes all of our power just to hang on by a thread. But no, you are a loved son and daughter of Christ. And that identity will never change, no matter what storm you're in, no matter what grades you get, no matter what happens in athletics, no matter what happens in your life, that identity never changes. Let your identity determine your standing, and you are on the path to a life of immense integrity. There's an alternate definition for integrity. It's also how you conduct yourself when no one is watching you. How do you live life when no one is watching you? Lessons from the emperor's story. All these families replaced the plants. This isn't working. Let's put a new plant in. They didn't see me do that behind closed doors, but I did that. Dishonesty and cheating. A lot of individuals engaging in showy displays to impress others. Look at my plant. Look at my tree. Look at how great this turned out. 2 Bible verses to talk about this. James chapter 4. But now you boast and brag, and all such boasting is evil. It is a sin when someone knows the right thing to do and doesn't do it. If I didn't inspire you over the course of the last 20, 30 minutes, that's fine. But just let this one sink in then. If you know something's the right thing to do and you don't do it, it's a sin. There's a sin of commission. I did an act I shouldn't have done. But friends, there's also a sin in omission. I know I should have said this, but I didn't. I know I should have stood up for her, but I didn't. I know I should have said something to somebody, and I didn't. Both are sins. Making sure that we're adhering to that is going to help us with respect to being a man or woman of integrity. Matthew chapter 6:1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Integrity isn't just about standing on morals and principles. It's doing what's right because it's right. If I want to make a $500 donation to my Kiwanis Club, I do it. I don't send a press release to the local paper saying, look what I did. If I want to help a little old lady across the street, I do it. I don't do a TikTok video going, look what I'm doing. Aren't I a great guy? Community service, yay. We're not called to do that. We're called to be better than that, and we're called to do the things that are right because they're right. This is the parting thought I'm going to leave you with. And this is one of the words, this is one of the phrases that go through my mind every day. I know sometimes a guy like me can make it look easy. Look at that guy, he owns all these businesses, he's got 50 employees, he travels the world speaking, must be nice to be him. It ain't easy being me. I get temptation from time to time. I struggle from time to time. But the one thing that I'd like to leave you with is one of the things that snaps me back to reality. If I had a long day, I'm thinking about going to the gym, and I say, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to stay home and watch Roseanne reruns, which my wife and I like. Don't laugh. Yes, we like Roseanne reruns. I'm not going to go to the gym today. I say to myself, Paul, this is bigger than you. Meaning, if I don't take care of myself, I might not be around for my kids. I'm tempted. I'm hungry. I'm famished. I haven't had lunch today. There's 3 Wendy's Baconators over here. My goodness, you ever have any of those? Whew. 3 Wendy's Baconators. I'm tempted to eat that. Paul, this is bigger than you. If you clog your arteries, you're not going to be around for your children and your grandchildren. I'm tempted to sleep in. I'm tempted to get lazy at work. I'm tempted to cut corners. I'm tempted to cheat. I'm tempted to slack off. Paul, this is bigger than you. Friends, this is bigger than you too. When we emerge here from this time and place, let's commit to being men and women of integrity. Let's commit to being role models for others. Let's commit to living a life that we would be proud of our brother for emulating, our sister for emulating, our friends for emulating. And if you know whose you are, you know who you belong to, and you know that you're not of this world, you're of that world, it becomes a lot easier. Our future depends on it. Our quality of life depends on it. Our very world depends on it. I'm Paul M. Neuberger. I thank you so much for your time. God bless you, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your words, your encouragement, your direction and leadership, integrity, all great stuff. Thank you so much. If you did not fill out that form that you were sent email, please do that. All right, you sent an email. That is your attendance, and also just give us a little feedback if you enjoyed this. And can we once again just give him a round of applause for doing a great job? So we have probably about 15 seconds, so I don't know if we have time for questions or whatever. But if you have any questions or whatnot for Paul, I'm sure you can give his email or whatnot, and you can send them out and whatnot. So, so I think is it 48 we get done, right? Isn't it normally 48? Yeah, so. All right, so when the tone goes off, you're going to be headed out to third hour class and go from there. Well, there it is.